Welcome to the Religious Feminism Podcast. Today I am speaking with the co-directors of the Women's Ordination Conference, which is a Roman Catholic organization seeking equality in the Roman Catholic Church. And I'll let my guests go ahead and introduce themselves.
Thanks so much for having us. My name is Kate McElwee, and I'm one of the co-directors of the Women's Ordination Conference based in Rome, Italy.
And hi, I'm Erin, Saiz, Hanna. I'm the other co-director, and I am based in Massachusetts here in the United States. And I am so excited to be with you today. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. To start off the podcast, we first like to talk about some of the positive things that we appreciate about our faith and our faith community. Can you tell us about some of those things?
Sure. I mean, there's so much to value and celebrate about our faith and rituals. I mean, first of all, Catholic women are the strongest people. They're strong as hell, basically. They're the strongest people I know. We have a rich theological tradition. We have this social justice teachings, this practice of conscience that allows one to really discern and make decisions based on their own decisions alone. Catholics love humor, and I think one of the big parts that Erin and I really benefit from is the communities of nuns and sisters around the world who are really the most amazing women who are educated and are on the front lines and great role models and heroes for all of us. We both also benefit from a lot of the faith-based feminist communities that have sort of grown around the margins of our Catholicism, and so these women are incredible faith leaders and thinkers, and the real craft and creativity and the joy that can come from those places is something that Erin and I get to experience a lot because of our organizing work. I'm also part of a regular sort of canonical parish in Rome that offers a great community for me and support and a sense of belonging.
All right, so how about your feminist community? What are some of the things you appreciate about that?
So I just adore my feminist community. I feel blessed to have actually worked within the feminist community for over 10 years. WALK is a beautiful feminist community, the Women's Ordination Conference. And before then, I was also at the National Organization for Women. And I think, what I value most is the sisterhood in the feminist community. It's great, one, to work alongside and have friends who have the same progressive values that you do, and that are willing to show up at marches and take stances and, make some holy mischief, as we like to say. But what I also value is just that the sisterhood is there for you. So actually, a few weeks ago, I lost my mom, and it was really traumatic, a devastating time. But it was my feminist sisters that came to my side. Kate, for example, came all the way from Rome to be with me. So your feminist sisters, they're there for you, to march in the street or to hold you up during your hardest times.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry about your loss, but I do love that term, holy mischief. That's a beautiful phrase. Can you tell me a little bit about the status of women within your faith, and does it vary by congregation? Tell us a little bit about that.
This is a very big question. On a large scale, women are sort of excluded from one of the 7 sacraments, so they are not allowed to have holy orders or ordination. So that prohibits women from being deacons, priests, bishops, cardinals, popes, and because of that exclusion, they're also not around decision-making tables. So at the Vatican level, it is a true hierarchy where women are not present. They have no vote or no voice in those circles. However, we're all considered equal at our baptism, and so that's something that we really hold as one of our key values, is this equality in baptism. And so with that sacrament, we are directed to various paths. So women can be religious sisters or nuns, but even then, nuns are considered part of the laity, and so they are just sort of normal, have little decision-making authority. Women can be professors and theologians, and they can even instruct men in their study of becoming a priest, but cannot be a priest themselves. So on an institutional level, women are barred sort of by the sacrament that they're excluded from, but also just in practice. So, for example, the Pope, could appoint a woman to be a head of an office at the Vatican. Ordination is not necessarily required for that, but because of the practice and the sexism that exists and this fear that women might be clericalized, the Pope has said that we won't do that. Pope Francis has said that. And then kind of on a parish level, it's variable. For example, there isn't a global mandate that says girls can't be altar servers in a parish, but some parishes do choose to exclude women and girls from serving on the altar. Women can serve as Eucharistic ministers, and many women fulfill the roles and the services of being a deacon in parishes and even a priest without sort of this official or formal commissioning. But it's an enormous question. It's an enormous question.
It's complicated. That's true in my faith community also. Can you tell me about some of the policies or norms or doctrines that you're trying to change as feminists?
Yes. So in the Roman Catholic Church, we have what is called the Code of Canon Law. And the Code of Canon Law is our laws and regulations that regulate the church and its members that have, been put out by the hierarchy. So very specifically, there's a canon law called Canon Law 1024, and that is the canon law that says only a baptized male can validly receive the sacrament of ordination. So essentially, that's the canon law that bans women from becoming priests, deacons, bishops, pope in the Catholic Church. And so in the Catholic Church also, because ordination is very much linked to leadership, it also excludes women from many decision-making tables in our church. And so policies that are made where the Vatican has a voice and the church has a voice on things like marriage or reproductive health care, some really strong global stances that they take, women are, excluded from making a lot of those decisions that affect women's daily lives. So Canon 1024, denies women their spiritual authority to baptize babies, to preach at mass, to be priests on the altar. So not only are women not able to answer their call to ordination, but in a real practical life beyond those who are called to ordination, it really affects the lives of daily women everywhere, that women do not have that ability to be at the decision-making table.
That sounds so familiar to me as a Mormon feminist. That is true in our faith as well, that only men are given the priesthood, which means that those big decisions about policies and doctrines are made by men. So it is very important. Can we talk about some of the barriers that might prevent you from reaching those goals?
Yeah, well, basically, we're working against a global system of oppression. And like Erin mentioned, the magisterium, or the church's authority, exists on various levels of severity and infallibility and theological discourse. So there's all different kinds of levels of authority and enforcement of these sexist and exclusionary practices. So we're working against a centuries-old institution that is a city-state that enjoys those privileges and has a seat at the United Nations and doesn't have to abide by any of the EU regulations regarding gender, and basically operates with a complete monarch. So with all of that authority, they have all these different ways to instruct Catholics. So there's the theology, there's teachings, there's papal documents, there's proclamations, there's all kinds of writings. So all of these can be used to dismiss women, and it reinforces this complementary language about the role of women. So basically, it's a complete machinery which is well-financed, self-replicating, fear-inducing, and believed by millions to be trusted and true. So this system also, of course, is a patriarchy that hurts men as well as women. But I think a personal barrier, though, is the fear that I mentioned and the silence of our allies. Many priests who are in power at the Vatican level and all the way down the hierarchy support women's ordination. So we know this. We speak to them. Some of them are our friends, but the security of their career, or protecting their profile, or the risk of being cast out of a system that grants education, protection, a pension, is a cost that's just too high. So that's a big barrier for us, just that allies are not speaking out when it counts. And then I think a trickier issue that's sort of more insider baseball is that there's been a general softening of the Pope's image, especially with US progressive Catholics. And he has encouraged a culture shift that does encourage dialogue and some hope, and around a lot of issues of poverty and inclusion and reaching out to the poor and the margins. And I think a mistake that gets made too often is that this gets applied to women's issues as well. And when in reality, the Pope, he may speak beautifully about the poor and the marginalized and anti-corruption, but what he says about women is too often outdated and offensive, reductive, and just a reiteration of his predecessors. And so this lack of intersectionality in his message sort of is a struggle for us to organize around, because he is so positive and likable to a lot of people, but he still is so regressive when it comes to women.
I would add just to Kate's comments, she spoke perfectly about that. We did a video that you could see on our YouTube channel called YouTube/Ordained Women. And we did a video called Vatican, It's a Man's World. And if you go see it, it has lots of quotes in it. And we're reading these really horrible misogynistic quotes. And the majority of them are from Pope Francis. So these are a lot of quotes that have gotten kind of hidden around his, wonderful demeanor. But if you go to it, you can see that he's actually has said some really horrible sexist things about women.
I will add that to our show notes so that people who listen to this podcast can find it and check it out. That sounds great. Well, it sounds not great, but
it was fun to do.
All right. Have you made any progress towards your goal in spite of these barriers? Or do you have any success stories you can share with us?
There are, the Catholic Church success stories for women move at a very slow rate. Change in the Catholic Church is notably slow, but there are some things. One thing Kate mentioned was altar girls. So that is something, I'm 37. When I was in elementary school, girls could not be altar servers. My church has banned it, but it was pretty much banned, across everywhere. So in 1994, that officially was lifted. So girls could be altar servers. So by the time I went to high school, girls could be altar servers. However, as Kate mentioned, that's isn't a guarantee. There are places that still do not allow girls on the altar. And then sometimes what I feel is really horrible, there are places that have girls on the altar, and then a new priest will come in and then say, no, girls are no longer allowed on the altar. So that's when parents will really seek out our organization to say, like, this sexist thing just happened in our church. My daughter was an altar server and now she can't be. But it is a success that that the ban was officially lifted, and there are lots of places you'll see girls on the altar, and churches all across the country and around the world. So that is a success. More recently, you may have heard the conversation that's been in the news about women deacons. So the Vatican has started this commission to discuss women deacons in the early church. And it's an important conversation that's happening at the Vatican right now. If women deacons were welcomed into the church, and I think that comes with a very big if. But if they are, it would be a stepping stone for equality. It would be a success for women to be able to hear women preach and have a larger spiritual authority role in the church. Obviously, at the Women's Ordination Conference, we support full equality from deacons, priests, bishops to pope. And seats at every table, but it's an important conversation that's happening, and there is a well-known theologian, Dr. Phyllis Sagano, who spoke at our Women's Ordination Worldwide conference in 2015, who sits at that table. So it's an exciting conversation, something to keep following. And the conversation happening at the Vatican alone is a success, because the talk about women's inclusion in the church rarely has any time at the Vatican. So it's important. And then one other thing I would say that is a success is not, through the official structures of the Roman Catholic Church, but we have sisters who prophetically answer their call to ordination. So there are many groups like Roman Catholic Women Priests, Association of Roman Catholic Women Priests, the Ecumenical Catholic Communion. These groups, despite, Roman Catholic Women Priests, ARCWP, they're excommunicated. So, but they answer their call to women's ordination anyway. They answer their call to God's, and they have beautiful faith communities, and they really model what we'd like to see in our official structure of the church. So they have these welcoming communities where people who feel marginalized can feel welcomed in the Catholic Church, and they they serve as priests in the world. So regardless of their excommunication, they are, wonderful functioning priests where people can find a safe place to go and be Catholic.
So one of the main reasons that I started this podcast is because as a Mormon feminist, I want to learn from other religious feminists and get some ideas about how I can work towards ending patriarchy in my own faith. And we're going to have viewers from many different religious faiths, participants from many different religious faiths who have the same questions. So I'm wondering, do you have any advice for people in other faiths who are also seeking equality within their religious traditions?
The advice that I would give someone seeking more gender inclusion and equality in their faith community would be to take risks and to speak up and find a friend. And even if it's a small conversation, like Erin mentioned, just talking about women's inclusion at the Vatican level is a huge deal in the Catholic faith. So small conversations are a big deal. So I would just continue to network and to speak up. And also just something that is really important for me and for so many of our membership is to feed yourself spiritually. That if you're not being fed and if it's not a safe place for you, then to find a faith, a ritual or a faith community outside of church walls, so that you are safe and heard and valued. I think that's so important. And it can be a balance. You can, find faith in lots of places, but really just make sure that you're being spiritually fed.
I would just add that you're not alone. We're here for all of our sisters of many faiths. I think one thing that we have found so important to myself and to Kate is the times that we've done actions together with ordained women, our Mormon sisters and our Muslim sisters. I think that sometimes even we've been around a long time, over 40 years, but there are times that you can feel very alone in this work where you're up against a really hard struggle. But it's nice to know that there are other people who are going through a hard time, not that misery loves company, but that we have each other's backs, and we, are here for a resource for you, and we know that you're there for us. And it's important to do things together because we're all in this struggle together.
On social media, we use the hashtag #EqualInFaith. So that's a way to find us or to tag us on things that you're doing that we would love to support.
Is there anything else you would like to tell us before we close the podcast?
Go ahead.
I would just like to say how inspiring and fun it is to get to know our Mormon sisters. As Erin mentioned, we've organized and worked with Ordained Women, the Mormon group, for several years now, since its inception. And so we just find so much energy and support and friendship in those circles and working with you that I don't know if you know it, but it's really a shot in the arm for activists who have been doing this work for a long time. We love the new energy and your creativity and how faithful and sincere you are about the work that you do. So we're really inspired by all of you.
Yes, second all of that. Just love working together when we can. And also to those listening, if you're looking for, to do an interfaith panel and you're looking to have a Roman Catholic feminist on, speak along with you, let us know. We can always put you in touch with local people in the area. We love to do things together. And follow us on Twitter, on Facebook. We are, /ordained women, I think on both of those. So please find us and follow us along. And thank you so much for having us. This has been wonderful.
Thank you. And I would just like to add, as one of those Mormon feminists that has participated in the Ordained Women movement, that we think of you as our mentors and our kind of like our big sisters, our big sisters in the feminist movement. So we love working with you too. And I will definitely add your social media accounts to our show notes so that people can follow you.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.